often talk about replacing the culture of war by a culture of peace, and about making peace a human right. So how do you think this vision could be implemented?
I think we need to teach peace education, both formally and non-formally. I think it has to be integrated into the curriculum of every national system of education. And peace education means teaching for and about human rights, gender equality, sustainable development, disarmament, nonviolence, social and economic justice, and traditional peace practices. How did your grandmother deal with your grandfather when they had a fight? Did she kill him?
No.
She probably gave him a meal. My grandmother used to say, eat first and talk later.
That's true.
So we need to start changing our ways of being and living as we're changing our ways of protesting. Now we're into a very democratic, non-hierarchical form of mobilization that's catching on all over the world. Huge evolution in popular mobilization and popular protest. So too we need to change our way of education. And children from the get-go need to learn nonviolence and need to learn about gender equality and human rights.
You talked about an education of peace. So according to you, what role should young people play today in this regard?
You know, kids know a lot more than parents and teachers and adults will admit to. There is a new play on Broadway, it's not on Broadway, off-Broadway, in which children from the ages of 7 to 14 act in a play called Kids on Strike. And it's all about climate change and war and peace, but mostly about climate change. And they are brilliant, and they take their desires for reducing emissions to their congresspeople, to the presidents of a mining company, and finally to the UN. And when everybody turns them down and says they're not going to listen to them, at one point the UN Security Council goes out to lunch, and the kids stay in the chamber, and they take the seats of the Security Council members, and they vote one resolution after another for climate change, to prevent climate change, sorry. So it's going to take a lot of creative planning, thinking, and engagement. Young people have to also have a voice. The whole movement in the world, which is now called Out of Wall Street, but it's bigger than Wall Street, obviously. It's all about the voicelessness of people and the need for a voice in decision-making, whether it's women, young people, former combatants. So many people have no say. And that's what we're all witnessing right now, and it's very exciting.
That's true. The World Peace Movement has known an upsurge in 2003 with millions of people in the streets protesting against the war in Iraq. However, since then, we haven't seen such a level of mobilization with a peace agenda. Why is that so, and how can we capture the enthusiasm and engagement of the public?
Well, we have far more internet use, and more people are sitting at their computer all day long, and some all night long. And that's a very immobilizing activity. You don't go out on the street if you can play a game on your computer at home or watch a movie. So that's one problem. But on the other hand, thousands of people are going on the streets. Tahrir Square, Yemen, places where it's dangerous to go on the street, and throughout the United States, in every major capital of every state, practically. So there is a mobilization. It's a new kind of mobilization. And it's a new kind of movement. And with the internet, we have far more opportunity for education. and consciousness raising. So people are more aware of what the seriousness is in the world today, the dangers, the threats. And there's mobilizing by lobbying. People are all over the place lobbying America's Congress on the budget cuts, the need to cut the defense budget. So I'm not giving up on people. I think when conditions become outrageous, people become outraged.
And you went to Occupy Wall Street, which is a worldwide
course.
movement. Yeah, I know that. So do you think that Occupy Wall Street could be a renewal of mass mobilization for the future?
I think it has been already, and it's taking many different forms. You don't have to sleep on concrete to prove that you are a protester. There are people who are going into schools and doing teach-ins. There was a meeting at the UN on funding for development, and 2 people from OWS showed up. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So they're going everywhere, and they have no political baggage. You can't say they're commies, you can't say they're Nazis, you can't attach any sort of traditional ideology to them, because they have one thing in common. There's inequality, there's no voice, and it's not fair.
To conclude, what would be your main hopes and concerns regarding the peace movement in the future?
I have always dreamed that the peace movement and the environmental movement and the human rights movement, the women's movement would come together, because it's all one big thing. We can't have peace without sustainable development. We can't have sustainable development without the voice of women and the role of women in decision making. It's all one big bundle, wrapped up package. And one day we should be able to bring it all together. And to a large extent, the Out of Wall Street movement is looking at all of these issues. They care about that. They care about the environment. They care about peace. And they show up at these different events. But Americans and most of the people in the world are used to segmenting, putting their concerns into little cubby holes. But cubby holes are for children. So we need to bring our concerns together so that we have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful world to leave for our children, and in my case, our grandchildren.
Cora Weiss, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us and for this interview.
Well, thank you.